Hey y'all, it's Krystle with the Book Bar. This is the Book Alert, where we read them and spoil them while sipping on a little, little wine, little vino. Stay tuned while we get into this week's read. Hey y'all, it's Krystle here with the Book Bar with the Book Alert. And this week we are going to spoil for you Nightcrawling. Hope you've read it, had a chance to read it. It's been out for a little while, so why haven't you read it? Okay, so we're going to talk about it. This right here is Nightcrawling by Leila Mottley. She is 19 years old, and this book is amazing. First of all, at 19 years old, let me tell you what I wasn't doing. Writing books, okay? I was in college, and I despised writing papers. So what I wasn't about to do was write a whole novel. But I chose this book because it is inspired by the 2015 investigation of the Oakland Police Department. They were investigated for human trafficking. And the reasoning behind why that inspired me to choose this as my first book is because it gave me the opportunity to tell you a little bit about myself. So I am a therapist by trade. I am a licensed mental health professional right here in the state of Virginia. And my clientele are children and adolescents, some young adults who are survivors of sexual trauma. And so I felt like this was good because it got into who I am, but also about this book. And I just kind of felt like it would bring all of this together for the whole show. That was part of the reason behind why I opened the Book Bar. I really wanted it to be a self-care space. I am big on self-care. And so I wanted to bring that into Richmond, and I also wanted to bring that into the community, which is why the books that I center in the store are all by Black and Brown creatives. All of my wines, Black and Brown creatives. This week, we have Alexis George. So Alexis George, this is a Pinot Noir by Alexis George out of the Russian River Valley. And I chose this one to pair with this book because though it is a red, it is a dry red, but it is a lighter dry red. It's not deep and gloomy, which, I wanted to bring some lightness to the topic because it is a heavy topic. But let's get into Nightcrawling. So Nightcrawling revolves around a 17-year-old young girl. Her name is Kiera. She is 17. She lives in California, and she is doing everything in her power to do the right thing. She searched for jobs but couldn't get hired. Her parents are not around for one reason or another. Dad is no longer living, and mom is tied up in the system. She has an older brother, the only other adult figure in her life, who is an aspiring rapper, and so he's not doing what he needs to do to help out with the house. And so you have Kiera here, who realizes, okay, we are living in an impoverished area. We have to pay bills. We have to get food. And who's going to do that for us? And so what does Kiera do? She's like, okay, I'm gonna do what I need to do. She is also taking care of the neighbor's child. The neighbor has some struggles with substance abuse. And so she's taking care of the neighbor's child and trying to feed them both and clothe them both and keep a roof over both their heads. So she, after trying to find a job, and not doing well with that, she goes out and she's asking friends for help, goes to a party and gets a little discouraged. As she's leaving, she has an encounter with an older man. This encounter leads to all the things, and he ends up paying her. That sparked an idea. I can get paid. I have bills to pay. And so begins the sex work at the age of 17, hence human trafficking, because she is a minor, and these are all adults. That progresses into the police catching wind of it and then trafficking her as well. Fast forward a bit, because then we end up with someone stepping in saying, hey, we're going to take them to court. Why don't you testify? That's its own thing. We'll get into that a little bit later. But the themes that come up in this here book, okay, I don't know if you guys read it, and if you haven't, I feel like I said enough to make you want to read it, but whatever. I'll say a little more. Let's talk about impoverished areas, adults not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and the system doing everything to work against people, because that's essentially what happened in this entire book. And I think that is the reasoning behind why the whole thing just kind of hurt my heart. And the poor baby, Kiera, she didn't realize she was being trafficked. And I feel like there's been this theme that, she's 17, she should know. But why? Who's telling these kids? Who's talking to them? This was a heavier read. It definitely was a heavier read. It is inspiring, though. I mean, listen, the author is 19. What were you doing at 19? Okay? The author is 19, and she wrote this prior to the age of 19. She's 19 now. And so let's get in a little bit into why this book resonated with me and why I decided to choose it. I told you all a little bit earlier that I am a therapist. I'm a licensed therapist and I work with survivors of sexual trauma. The majority of my clientele is under the age of 18, and per statistics, 1 in 4 girls will be sexually abused or sexually assaulted by the age of 18. 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused or sexually assaulted by the age of 18. And so I feel like, as taboo as the topic of sex is in the U.S., it's a little ridiculous given the fact that those statistics suggest it's going to occur prior to adulthood. And when I see these clients, so many of them don't think what happened was wrong. And so it's kind of one of those situations where when I look back at the book, Kiera didn't believe what she had gone through was wrong. In her mind, she's like, I gave consent. Don't even get me started on the topic of consent, because folks just do not understand consent. They think as long as you give permission, you've given consent. That is not how consent works. It's so much more to it than that. But for Kiera, she's like, I said yes. And how all of it came out. The reason why it all came out, not just in the book Nightcrawling, but also in the investigation with the Oakland Police Department. The reasoning behind why it came out is because one of the officers completed suicide, and in his completion, he left a letter. And in the letter, he admitted to what he and his colleagues were doing. That's how it came out. And so the investigation was sparked, and things are occurring. I just looked it up recently. There was a settlement in that case, in the civil suit of that case. Now, I do not know all the details of what happened in the criminal case, but I do know in the civil suit, there was a settlement. And we know with civil suits, you can have a settlement and not acknowledge any guilt or admit to any guilt. First of all, I have problems with that. Just like I do in this here book. I have problems with that, and let me tell you why. If you trash, just say you trash. It is what it is. Like, you were big enough to go and do this to a child. Be big enough to accept those consequences, homie. Accept them consequences. You trash. All of y'all that did this, y'all trash. I said it. In Nightcrawling, Kiera was approached by someone who was investigating the police. And when she was approached, she didn't want any parts initially. But what makes it even worse is, because we know the police investigate the police. And when she was brought into the room, and questioned. And by this point, she was 18. Okay, so it all started when she was 17, which is what made it illegal for the human trafficking piece of it. She was 18 when they brought her in for questioning. But now, again, don't know the details of the actual case, but in this here book, they also kept her for I think it was like close to 24 hours or something along those lines. By the time she was done, she had told them what they wanted to hear because she was ready to go and she was hungry and everything else. Listen, I don't care what nobody say. I don't care if it's true or not true. You get held in a room for 24 plus hours, nothing to eat, nothing to drink, not being allowed to sleep, not being allowed to leave until they hear what they want to hear. You're going to say what they want you to say, excuse me. And that's what happened. And so she said that everything started when she was 18, but that was a lie. She didn't know any of the officers' names, but what she knew were their badge numbers. And she knew what they looked like, obviously. So she knew what they looked like and she knew their badge numbers. That's how they communicated with their badge numbers. She never knew any of their names. And so all of this goes through, she can remember. And then they come through and they threaten her. Of course, now they're scared. They know they're being investigated, so they threaten her. And there was a point, because I know there's always one victim blaming person out there. There was a point where she wanted to stop and tried not to follow through. And she was essentially blackmailed into, or strongly encouraged by the police to continue the behavior and entertain at this party. So all of these things are transpiring all around the same time. She goes to court and she testifies in front of the grand jury, and nothing happens because the justice system. Nothing. And so that is essentially the way this book ends. But even within the book, there is more, because I remember I talked to you guys a little bit earlier about the little boy who she was taking care of. Of course, that was part of the threat. Because, you know, they got to threaten you, because how else can they control you? So they had to threaten you. So part of the threat was, we're going to get CPS involved. First of all, why is that even a threat? You should have had CPS involved anyway, because where is this child's mother? Like, these are children. Your threat is to destroy this family, or this ready-made family, this chosen family, unless they do what you want them to do. And on top of that, you know what the police were doing? While they had her under their thumb, they would also let her know about stings and such so that she wouldn't get arrested. I mean, come on. Dirty, dirty, dirty. All of it is just, I mean, trash. I said it once, trash. And so that's what you have going on in this here book. Going back to my clientele, I have worked with survivors of human trafficking. I have worked with sex workers. I have worked with all of these individuals. And people don't go into sex work because that's just what they aspire to be growing up. That is not what anyone aspires to be. Usually they're forced into it by circumstances, as was this young lady. Forced into it by circumstances, and then people take advantage because people will people. Humans can be trash at times. And that's what occurred in this book. And that is also why I chose the book, because it resonated so much and gelled so much with what I do as a therapist. I absolutely love what I do as a therapist. I absolutely love reading because it's self-care for me. I will enjoy a little bit of wine here and there. Got a little taste here. A little taste, a little light taste, a little light red. Y'all like a little red? I like a little red. I like red, I like white, I like sweet, I like dry, I like, you know, it doesn't matter. Give it to me, you know? I like something to sip on, especially when your mouth get a little dry. Need a little something to sip on. So, yeah. I'm going to put this in front of y'all again. Good old Alexis George. This is the Pinot Noir. You can come on down to the book bar and pick that up. And you can order from my website if you're in the state of Virginia. And Nightcrawling by Leila Mottley. I definitely believe you guys should go on ahead and pick this up. It is a great read. I know I spoiled it. I don't care. Told you it was going to happen. But go ahead and pick it up because you're going to love it. Yeah, so be sure to stop on by the store, the Book Bar, Richmond, Virginia. It is 1311 East Main Street. If you haven't been, why not? Come on in. We'd love to see you. And if you have been, thank you so very much. You can also go online to my website, rvabookbar.com, where you can order books and wine. If you're in the state of Virginia, I can ship in-state only. But you can also come into the store and pick up both as well. And I know some of you may not be physical book readers. You might be ebook readers or audiobook readers, and that is 100% okay. You can still purchase through my website, okay? There are sites you can go to that support independent bookstores. That's what we want to put out there. So Libro FM is an audiobook site. Then you can choose the Book Bar as your store, which means all purchases through there will come through me. So if you go on my website, rvabookbar.com, go to shop books, it'll take you to where you need to go. Just hit ebook or audiobook if you're not a physical book reader. And I guarantee your purchase will still support the store. And we greatly appreciate it. So come on through. I'll see you when you get there.